Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA, the show that gets you ahead of the rest. I'm Jyotsna Kumar.
And I'm Kripan. Lined up on the show today, Nepal is in a race against time to find more than 1,400 people still missing after the devastating floods. Meanwhile, Nepal and China have warned of fresh flood risks, with newly formed lakes threatening to burst now.
We'll get you all the details on that. On the other hand, U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered Lake Ontario to be renamed Lake America, opening a fresh front in his escalating confrontation with Canada. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has rejected the move, insisting that the lake will remain Lake Ontario. And this order comes as trade tensions between Washington and Ottawa deepen following the collapse of recent negotiations with the imposition of retaliatory tariffs. We'll get you all the details on that and much more from across the world. Let's begin with the headlines first.
Nepal and China warned of fresh flooding as two lakes near Nepal-Tibet border risk bursting. China expects 3 million cubic meters of water to enter a dammed lake with peak flows around September 1.
Nepal's flood death toll rises to 392, with over 1,400 people still missing across Nepal and Tibet. At least 290 Indians remain missing, including tourists and Mount Kailash pilgrims, while 84 have been rescued.
Qatar's Prime Minister meets Iran's Foreign Minister in Tehran to discuss Strait of Hormuz security and regional de-escalation. Talks come amid a U.S. naval blockade, mounting sanctions and diplomatic efforts to reopen navigation.
I've had good talks with him. He's not going to be attacking a NATO territory.
Donald Trump says Vladimir Putin won't attack NATO territory, downplaying reports of U.S. warnings to Moscow. Kremlin also dismisses report of attack plan following a rare CIA director visit to Russia.
Kuwait and Pakistan sign a joint defense cooperation agreement to strengthen military coordination, exchange expertise and improve readiness. The pact follows Pakistan's recent Mecca joint defense agreement with Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
Gaza Civil Defense Agency says Israeli strikes killed 3 people in the territory, while Israeli military says it targeted Hamas militants. Strikes hit areas including Gaza City, Al-Shati refugee camp, and southern Khan Yunis.
The lake change, Lake of America, was something I've been thinking about for a long time, actually.
Donald Trump orders Lake Ontario, a shared U.S.-Canada waterway, renamed Lake America, escalating tensions with Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney rejects the move, insisting it will remain Lake Ontario as trade tensions deepen.
Security protests in Spain escalated into clashes with police after demonstrators confront migrants on a beach. Protesters blocked Red Cross aid vehicles, while police used tear gas to prevent further confrontations.
U.S. markets rally Thursday, led by technology stocks after Nvidia's strong outlook boosts optimism around AI. The Nasdaq gains 1.57%, the S&P 500 rose 0.72%, and the Dow advanced 0.2% ahead of Fed Chair Kevin Warsh's Jackson Hole speech.
Nepal and China are warning of fresh flood risks as debris have formed 2 lakes on either side of the border that threaten to burst now.
This comes as rescuers continue searching for more than 1,400 people still missing after the flash floods and landslides. The death toll in Nepal has now risen to 392, with entire villages swept away. Nepali police say 389 bodies have been recovered. Another 910 people are out of contact in Nepal, including 517 foreign tourists. In Tibet, 3 people have been killed and over 550 remain missing.
There can be dead bodies buried underneath the rubble. The flood waters that flowed from above, there could be bodies buried. We can't say for sure right now, but we are working.
Before and after satellite images show the scale of destruction, with homes, roads and bridges wiped out by a wall of ice, mud and debris.
Drone footage from the disaster zone shows entire settlements buried under thick layers of sludge. The Red Cross said that entire villages have been destroyed and impassable roads and bridges had left communities cut off. The full scale of the disaster still remains unclear.
The U.S. Geological Survey says the disaster was caused by a glacial collapse, triggering a massive debris flow downstream. Experts say climate change and rapidly melting Himalayan glaciers are increasing the risk of glacial lake floods and collapses. The wall of mud and water traveled nearly 170 kilometers into Nepal and was described by experts as an inland tsunami.
There's we saw the gush of water all the way, dirty mud, rising all the way four-story high. We ran for our life. We ran 500 steps all the way up the mountain to be safe.
Did you hear something before you
Yes.
saw the mudslide? What was it? Please explain.
Like waterfall, it felt like a boulder falling down. Like when a boulder hits water, what happens? That's what it was. A big rock. When it hits water, what happens? It pumps a hole in. So we were thinking it's earthquake. Right, but we still don't know, because I was also told that this is more like a glacier burst. That's what I think the army folks told us. So we have to go with what they say. So I don't know.
Authorities now fear a
Absolutely.
second disaster. Nepal says the lake formed by debris blocking a river is rising and could burst any time. China says 3 million cubic meters of water could flow into a dammed lake over the next 3 days.
Now, that is equivalent to about 1,200 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Chinese authorities say the risk of a breach could peak around September 1st, with more rain expected to worsen the threat.
Indians make up the largest group of missing foreigners. Many were tourists and trekkers, including Hindu pilgrims returning from Mount Kailash. At least 290 Indian nationals remain missing, while 84 have been rescued.
My brother had gone for the pilgrimage, and the travel agency informed me that some of the pilgrims have been hospitalized. When we asked for more information on those who have been admitted, they, travel agents, said they will call as soon as they have any update.
The United States says 90 Americans are out of contact. Other missing foreigners includes citizens from Australia, Britain, Malaysia, the Netherlands, Portugal, South Africa, and South Korea.
Meanwhile, a magnitude 5 earthquake struck Tibet region late on Thursday. The epicenter was hundreds of miles north of the regions hit by the flash flood. Well, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi met his Qatari counterpart in Tehran for talks on the strategic Strait of Hormuz as the U.S. naval blockade continues to squeeze oil supplies to Iran amid a domestic shortfall.
And a visit by Qatar's Prime Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman Al Thani, who is also the country's foreign minister, follows a week of intense diplomacy in Iran, involving separate meetings with Oman's top diplomat and senior Pakistani officials seeking ways to end West Asia war and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It also comes as Washington threatens wider secondary sanctions against countries, banks and companies that continue doing business with Iran as part of a broader campaign it has called economic asphyxiation.
A Gulf neighbor of Iran and US ally, Qatar has served as a back-channel negotiator for the warring parties and played a direct role in securing a June ceasefire that briefly led to a cessation of hostilities.
In the meantime, Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Mohsen Rezai, has said that Iran is preparing a list of conditions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz after mediators asked Iran to set them out. Now, adding that one of the conditions is to end the regional war. Rezai said Iran had agreed with Oman on a shipping corridor through the strait, with parts of the route in Omani waters and parts in Iranian waters. Now, he went on to say that ships would use a designated central channel if the U.S. met Iran's conditions.
Amid this, maritime shipping through the Strait of Hormuz has slowed to a near standstill. The U.S. Central Command said that as of August 27, it redirected 75 commercial vessels, disabled 3 and boarded 2 to ensure compliance.
The U.S. military is also preparing to deploy new aircraft carrier in West Asia to relieve USS George Washington, which arrived in the West Asia last week, replacing the USS Abraham Lincoln. According to the U.S. Naval Institute, USS Theodore Roosevelt Strike Group is expected to sail from San Diego on the U.S. West Coast in the coming weeks for a more than 7-month deployment.
Meanwhile, USS Abraham Lincoln, marred by reports of grim conditions and suicide attempts by sailors, will make a stop in Thailand next week after its grueling deployment in West Asia. A report by U.S. Naval Institute quoted Chief of Naval Operations Admiral Daryl Cordell as saying that the Navy is trying to ease pressure on sailors and the family.
On Thursday, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres expressed concern that new measures or inflammatory rhetoric could escalate tensions linked to the Iran crisis. He also urged all sides to pursue a political solution. Speaking on behalf of Guterres, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric confirmed that UN had received a letter from Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi.
The letter has been received. It has been distributed to Security Council and General Assembly as requested to by the authorities. You know, I think the assessment is that this conflict, even in somewhat of a frozen kinetic phase, continues to do a lot of harm to the region, continues to do a lot of harm to the global economy. I think that the Secretary General is concerned about any new measures, any additional rhetoric that we see that could lead to an escalation.
The lines formed outside Tehran petrol stations from midnight as a daily shortfall met with panic buying, while officials denied a shortage and said prices would have changed without clarifying when or by how much.
Long queues stretched for kilometers outside petrol stations in Tehran and other Iranian cities in the early hours of Thursday as the daily fuel shortfall collided with a surge in panic buying and government officials simultaneously confirming that petrol prices will rise further without specifying when or by how much. Videos posted on social media showed lines of vehicles forming in the capital and nearby city of Karaj around midnight on Wednesday and lasting into the early hours, with several stations closing before demand could be met. Officials attributed the surge to rumors of shortages, but the scale of the disruption and the announcement of a price increase suggested a growing structural problem. The shortfall of 15 million litres per day is the result of U.S. sanctions that have curtailed imports, U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iranian refining infrastructure, and the naval blockade of Iranian ports that has been in place since the war began on 28 February.
The National Iranian Oil Products Refining and Distribution Company said consumption in Tehran province had risen 30%, but insisted the supply chain was stable. However, the National Iranian Fuel Distribution Company confirmed that average daily distribution rose from 138 million liters in Mordad to 150 million liters, calling the shortage rumors baseless and unfounded, and urged drivers not to queue unless their tanks were genuinely close to empty.
Vice President of Iran for Executive Affairs Mohammad Jafar said on Wednesday evening that fuel prices would have to change. He added, and I quote it here, "We need to sit down with all those involved and then inform the public of the outcome." He acknowledged the current subsidy system was unfair, with car owners benefiting from more subsidized fuel than those without vehicles.
Any fuel price increase in Iran carries significant political risk. Tehran's last attempt to raise petrol prices in November 2019 triggered the bloodiest crackdown on protests since the 1979 revolution. Up to that point, killing an estimated 1,500 people, according to human rights organizations.
More recently, in December 2025, Iran was swept by nationwide protests sparked by persistent hyperinflation that security forces suppressed with lethal force, with tens of thousands of casualties, according to reports.
The Pezeshkian government has not set a date for the increase. Reports in Iranian media also suggest a dispute between IRGC and the government over access to strategic fuel reserves, with the guards reportedly opposing Tehran's unrestricted use of the stockpiles. Neither side has publicly confirmed the dispute.
Fuel smuggling is compounding supply pressures as well. Iranian media reported last week that authorities in the south of the country had dismantled a 6-kilometer pipeline buried under beach sand and seawater used to smuggle fuel out of Iran.
The Bandar Abbas Maritime Security Unit also announced the seizure of more than 12,000 liters of smuggled diesel at the open market exchange rate.
US President Donald Trump says Russia will not attack a NATO country, playing down media reports that CIA Director John Ratcliffe warned Russian officials against such an attack earlier in the week.
Now, Trump's latest comments came as the U.S. reviews its presence in Europe and informs NATO allies that it wants to see a European-led defense of the continent. Well, Trump told Axios in a phone interview that he believes Russian President Vladimir Putin will not attack a NATO country. He repeated that CIA Director John Ratcliffe, who flew to Russia to meet briefly with intelligence counterparts, had not been dispatched to deliver any particular message. He later repeated his claim when asked about when.
Trump's comments came after U.S. media reported that Ratcliffe had traveled to Moscow to warn Russia of any attack on a NATO member. The Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Ratcliffe was sent on a secret mission, keeping even some senior White House and military officials out of the loop. Ratcliffe's main message was that the U.S. remains committed to NATO's Article 5 and that Moscow should not test the alliance.
As senior EU officials said, European intelligence agencies see no sign of Russia planning a military attack on European NATO countries for now. However, the officials speaking on condition of anonymity noted that there is no doubt Russia is actively trying to create difficulties for NATO nations.
Adding to the tension, Russia has warned it could retaliate against the UK for its support of Kyiv by striking military targets inside and outside Ukraine. Britain's Prime Minister Andy Burnham said this week that the UK would allow Kyiv access to classified technology to start its own production of Storm Shadow long-range cruise missiles, while France has also agreed to supply missile technology. Maria Zakharova, Russia's foreign ministry spokesperson, said on Thursday that Britain and France were playing with fire.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon's policy chief Elbridge Colby told NATO members on Thursday that the alliance must adapt and that he wants to hear from allies as part of a review of U.S. forces in Europe. He explained the review was meant to enable a more European-led defense of the continent. Washington announced a 6-month review of U.S. troop deployments in Europe in June and recently sent NATO members a questionnaire covering issues ranging from defense spending to strategy, procurement, and support for U.S. foreign policy priorities.
According to Reuters, the review will create at least 4 sets of options for Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth by November 6, well ahead of a December deadline for its completion. The process has fueled questions among European officials about whether the U.S. administration intends to use the review as a genuine consultation, a symbolic gesture, or a negotiating tactic.
Of our generation has on the battlefield shoulder.
U.S. President Donald Trump has ordered Lake Ontario to be renamed Lake America.
This has escalated his trade and diplomatic tensions with Canada. The move has also drawn an immediate response from Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, who rejected the name change, saying the body of water will be called Lake Ontario, then now and always. Trump signed an executive order directing the U.S. Department of the Interior to update references to the lake in the official U.S. geographical naming system within 30 days. Speaking at the White House, Trump said the name change would take effect immediately. Behind him in the Oval Office were maps showing the lake labeled Lake America.
The move comes after U.S.-Canada trade talks broke down last week, leading both the countries to impose retaliatory tariffs. Trump defended the decision by accusing Canadian officials of treating the United States badly. Now, Lake Ontario, as you see on the map on your screens, is the smallest of the 5 Great Lakes, and it sits along the border between Canadian province of Ontario and New York State.
Carney, however, hit back, saying the lake's name is around 400 years old and comes from an indigenous term associated with its beauty and its size. Trump's latest move mirrors his decision in January 2025 to rename the Gulf of Mexico as the Gulf of America, a change also rejected by Mexico. The U.S. president has also floated the idea of renaming other bodies of water, joking that all that remains in an ocean, potentially the Atlantic or Pacific. A cyber attack targeting 3 major UK airports has resulted in the theft of personal data belonging to millions of customers.
Manchester Airport Group, which operates Manchester and Stansted airports, say information linked to 8.7 million customers was stolen in the attack. And the compromised data includes email addresses, phone numbers, vehicle registration details, and postcodes. The MAG says it was probing the incident and working with the relevant authorities to assess the impact of the breach.
The attack has raised concerns about the security of passenger data held by major transport operators as airports continue to face growing cyber threats. MAG said the system accessed in the cyber attack did not contain customers' bank or payment details. The company added airport operations and customer parking at Manchester, Stansted and East Midlands airports remain unaffected.
Cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, including airports, are becoming more frequent. In September 2025, Heathrow was among several major European airports hit by a cyber attack, disrupting operations and stranding passengers.
A technical failure at Collins Aerospace caused major delays at several airports. In 2022, ransomware hit its provider Advanced Computer Software Group, disrupting critical NHS services.
Now, UEFA is considering criminal action against FIFA President Gianni Infantino over his scrapped investment plan.
The European football body is preparing a possible complaint in Switzerland, accusing Infantino and other FIFA officials of financial mismanagement. The dispute centers on a plan to create FIFA Forward Enterprise to handle commercial rights for major tournaments, including the World Cup. U.S. investment firm Thrive Capital was set to pay $4.2 billion for a 20% stake in the new company. UEFA claims the deal implied a value of about $20 billion without an open auction or independent valuation. Infantino also offered FIFA's 211 member associations $40 million each to back the private investment plan. Infantino dropped the plan on August 1 after strong opposition from UEFA and other football officials.
The European body is now seeking documents about FIFA-linked companies in the U.S., as well as Thrive Capital and other parties connected to the proposed deal. The material could be used in a potential criminal case in Switzerland, and the controversy adds to growing pressure on Infantino, who is seeking a 4th term as FIFA president next year. UEFA officials have also demanded wider reforms at FIFA, calling for stronger checks on presidential power and greater accountability. All right, now it's time for a very short break on World Day. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side. You're watching WION The World. Do stay tuned.
what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Kohler Spa at home.
In West Asia, every move shifts the world's balance. Wars, ceasefires, alliances. Power never stands still. Because what happens in West Asia never stays in West Asia. This is the West Asia Post.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Kohler Spa at home.
The architecture of war is changing. Geography is no longer a shield. The battlefield now stretches from sea to space. Meet the veterans, industry stalwarts, and innovators.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Kohler Spa at home.
Welcome back. You're watching World DNA with Josna. I'm Kripa. Let's get started with the headlines.
Rescuers evacuate 555 stranded tourists and 499 local residents from Tibet after a devastating mudslide on the Tibet-Nepal border. Chinese state media reports evacuations completed without specifying tourist nationalities.
At least 290 Indians remain missing in Nepal, including tourists and Mount Kailash pilgrims, while 84 have been rescued as Nepal's flood death toll rises to 392, with over 1,400 people still missing across Nepal and Tibet.
U.S. Naval Institute says USS Theodore Roosevelt strike group will deploy to West Asia in the coming weeks, replacing the USS George Washington. The move comes as the Iran war continues and U.S. carrier rotations intensify.
Kuwait and Pakistan sign a joint defense cooperation agreement to strengthen military coordination, exchange expertise and improve readiness. The pact follows Pakistan's recent Mecca joint defense agreement with Saudi Arabia and Turkey.
South Korea, the United States and Japan to hold joint military exercises from September 7th to 11th near Jeju Island. Seoul says the Freedom Edge drills will focus on countering North Korea's nuclear and missile threats.
Donald Trump hints his administration may sanction Chinese banks over ties to Iran, escalating Washington's economic pressure on Tehran. China remains Iran's biggest trading partner, including crucial oil transactions handled by banks.
The lake change, Lake of America, was something I've been thinking about for a long time, actually.
Donald Trump orders Lake Ontario, a shared U.S.-Canada waterway, renamed Lake America, escalating tensions with Canada. Prime Minister Mark Carney rejects the move, insisting it will remain Lake Ontario as trade tensions deepen.
U.S. federal judge rules Trump administration sanctions against AI company Anthropic illegal, finding the government punished the firm for criticizing the Pentagon. The judge rejects national security as justification for retaliation.
Oil prices fall after rising about 2% on Thursday after stalled U.S.-Iran diplomacy reduced hopes of a deal. Brent and U.S. crude are down nearly 0.5%, heading for weekly losses of 5.3% and 4.3% respectively. Pakistan and Kuwait have signed a new defense agreement aimed at significantly expanding military cooperation between the two countries.
The Protocol Agreement 2026 signed in Rawalpindi builds on the Bilateral Defence Cooperation Agreement of 2023. The agreement was finalized during an official visit by Kuwaiti Defence Minister Sheikh Abdullah Ali Abdullah Al Salim Al Sabah. He met with his Pakistani counterpart Khwaja Asif and Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Asim Munir at military headquarters in Rawalpindi.
Under the new agreement, Pakistan's armed forces will extend assistance to Kuwait in areas including military training, capacity building, border management, and other mutually agreed fields of defense cooperation. Now, according to the Pakistani military, both sides discussed regional security and agreed to further expand institutional ties, reaffirming their commitment to a strong partnership contributing to regional stability.
The development follows months of discussions over expanding security ties between Pakistan and Kuwait, which has faced attacks during the conflict involving Iran and the US.
According to reports, Kuwait earlier had been seeking a substantially greater Pakistani military presence, potentially involving troops, fighter jets, drones, and air defense systems. However, Pakistani officials had said Islamabad was not considering the deployment of combat troops.
Just weeks ago, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, remember, signed the Mecca Joint Defence Agreement in the Saudi holy city of Mecca. Signed on August 7, the landmark pact contains a collective defence provision under which an armed attack against one of the three signatories is to be treated as an attack against all three. All governments have stressed that these agreements are strictly defensive.
The Kuwait agreement, alongside Pakistan's recent defense arrangements with Saudi Arabia and Turkey, marks a significant expansion of Islamabad's military and strategic engagement across the Gulf and the wider region.
The central government has taken over 53.242 acres of Delhi Race Club land in Delhi.
Now, the property has been handed over to the Central Public Works Department for maintenance. Now, the land, which is located near the racecourse area and close to the Prime Minister's residence, was taken over by the Land and Development Office. Officials from the LNDO and CPWD confirmed or formally has recorded the handover. The move was carried out in line with an estate service organization order issued on 11th of August and a subsequent order and letter dated 26th of August. The takeover follows a court order passed on 25th August by the Principal District and Sessions Judge, the New Delhi District and the Patiala House Courts.
The court dismissed an application filed by Delhi Race Club seeking an interim stay on the eviction order issued by the estate officer on August 11. The court said the club had been given several opportunities to submit its reply and evidence but failed to do so. The estate officer then proceeded on the basis of the material available on record. The club had also argued that it was not given a proper opportunity to present its case. The court did not accept the claim and said the proceedings showed that sufficient opportunities had been provided.
Now, the lease was another key point in the case. The court noted that the lease granted to the Delhi Race Club had not been renewed after 1994 through any fresh document. And so for now, the property is under the care and maintenance of the CPWD. The main matter is listed for hearing on 26th of September. Now, Japan's military ambitions are once again drawing sharp criticism from China.
Beijing says Tokyo's latest moves are not just about strengthening defense, but point to a wider shift that could revive the region's troubled past. Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson Zhang Xiaogang made the remarks at a regular press conference on Thursday. He was responding to a series of recent developments in Japan's defense policy.
Zhang pointed to plans to expand Japan's Ministry of Defense and proposals to equip unmanned underwater vehicles and long-range missiles. He also cited an agreement between Japan and Australia to test hypersonic missiles. Zhang said that and described the trend as an acceleration of remilitarization The comments come as Japan continues to strengthen its defense capabilities amid growing security concerns in East Asia, while Tokyo has been expanding defense cooperation with partners including Australia, while also investing in longer-range weapons and new military technologies.
China has repeatedly criticized these moves, arguing that they mark a departure from Japan's post-war pacifist stance. Beijing has also raised concerns about the broader security impact of Japan's closer military ties with the US and other regional partners. Indonesia's lawmakers have become the target of a fresh wave of public anger.
Thousands of protesters gathered outside the parliament complex in central Jakarta, demanding tougher action against corruption and wider political and social reforms. The current protests are rooted in anger that erupted last year over generous lawmaker allowances. The demonstrations soon expanded into a broader backlash against corruption, rising living costs, inequality, and government austerity. The unrest turned deadly in August 2025 after a 21-year-old delivery driver was killed by a police vehicle during protest. His death further fueled public anger, and a year later, thousands are again on the streets demanding accountability and reforms.
The demonstrators gathered from Jakarta and other parts of Indonesia, with students and civil society groups leading the protests. Around 1,000 people gathered in Senayan, putting forward 10 demands. They have called for assets of those involved in corruption to be seized, higher workers' wages, and an end to tax policies they say that are burdening ordinary people. Protesters also demand greater accountability from President Prabowo Subianto and Vice President Raka. They have been accused, and they have accused the government of expanding the role of the military, weakening democratic institutions, and deepening economic inequality.
The demonstrations were largely peaceful until tensions escalated. Several protesters even climbed the parliament complex fence, and police later fired a water cannon as demonstrators pushed towards the compound. Officers in full protective gear then moved out and forced protesters to scatter. Another group from Central Java also took to the streets, demanding that Parliament pass the asset forfeiture bill and introduce the death penalty for corruption convicts.
The asset forfeiture bill would give the state greater powers to trace, block, seize and confiscate assets linked to corruption and other economic crimes. Parliament has said it aims to pass the bill by December 15. Meanwhile, security is tight across the Indonesian capital, with more than 18,500 security personnel deployed across 6 designated zones. The U.S. economy is facing what we call a triple threat: the Iran war, tariffs, and a ballooning debt burden.
Well, for Fed Chair Kevin Warsh, that creates a difficult balancing act. Tame inflation without further weakening an economy already losing momentum. So what is the Fed looking at? Well, and how much room does Warsh really have to act? Take a look at our next report to give more details on that.
Well, I mean, fuel cost alone has probably almost doubled from what it was last year. So that, it's made a very big impact.
Ahead of the high-stakes debut of Federal Reserve Chair Kevin Warsh at the annual Jackson Hole Economic Policy Symposium, the U.S. economy is facing a triple threat. The Iran war is pushing up energy costs, tariffs are threatening to raise prices, and a $40 trillion debt pile is putting pressure on U.S. finances. U.S. GDP grew at an annualized 1.5% in the second quarter, down from 2.1% in the first quarter. Yet consumers have held up. Spending rose 3.4%, while business investment, excluding housing, jumped, largely reflecting the AI investment boom. But the Iran war has added a fresh inflation risk. Inflation is steady at 3.7%. Way higher than Fed's 2% target. For the Fed, that creates a difficult trade-off. How do you support growth without fueling inflation? Then comes the second threat, tariffs, and Canada is at the center of the problem. The United States and Canada exchanged roughly $872 billion in goods and services last year. Canada also sends nearly 4 million barrels of crude oil a day south of the border, almost 20% of US petroleum consumption. Higher tariffs can mean higher costs for American companies and eventually American consumers. That matters because spending is already showing signs of cooling. In July, consumer spending rose just 0.2%, while spending after adjusting for inflation was essentially flat, and that leaves the Fed with another problem: weaker demand, but persistent price pressure. And then there is the biggest structural challenge, US debt. America's national debt has crossed $40 trillion. The government is already paying roughly $1.2 trillion a year in net interest, and borrowing is getting more expensive. Higher yields mean higher financing costs for Washington, and for American households and businesses, the cycle is difficult to break. Sticky inflation keeps rates higher. Higher rates keep bond yields elevated. Higher yields make the debt more expensive, and bigger interest bills add to the deficit. There is also a longer-term question around the dollar. The dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency, but aggressive use of sanctions and trade restrictions could encourage some countries to diversify away from dollar-based systems. For Kevin Walsh, the challenge is therefore bigger than one interest rate decision. Iran, tariffs, debt, three pressures, one Fed, and a difficult balancing act between inflation, growth, and financial stability. Business Bureau, WION, World is One.
Well, Poland has asked the European Commission to fine Meta $291 million.
This accusing the company of failing to remove fraudulent advertisements on Facebook and Instagram. The request follows tests that found most of the fraudulent ads identified by Poland's cybersecurity team were not removed by Meta. Poland's Digital Affairs Minister, Krzysztof Goskowski, said in Meta is putting its own profits ahead of user safety by allowing deceptive advertisements to remain on its platforms.
Now, said Polska, Poland's National Cybersecurity Incident Response Team tested 122 advertisements it classified as fraudulent. Meta decided not to remove 106 of them, while only 10 were taken down. In 6 other cases, the company did not respond.
Gokowski said Poland now wants financial penalties rather than further requests for Meta to improve its systems. He also called for tools that can more effectively detect and remove scams, false advertising and illegal applications. Meta said it is investing heavily in technology and working with industry and law enforcement to identify and remove scammers. The Polish government's move comes amid growing scrutiny of Meta's responsibility for content on its online platforms. In 2024, Polish billionaire Rafał Brzoska sued Meta over fake Facebook and Instagram ads, which used his image and made false claims about his wife. A Warsaw Appeals Court ruled this year that Meta could be held responsible for advertisements hosted on its platforms. Poland now wants other European countries to join its push for tougher action against Meta. A political storm has spilled onto the cricket field at Lord's. The Pakistan Cricket Board has lodged a formal complaint with Sky Sports after the broadcaster aired an interview with the sons of jailed former Pakistani Prime Minister and cricket captain Imran Khan during the England-Pakistan Test.
Now, the PCB was so angered by the broadcast that Pakistan reportedly considered refusing to return to the field. But after tense discussions involving the England and Wales Cricket Board, Pakistan returned for the afternoon session. The controversy erupted during the first day of the second test between England and Pakistan at Lord's.
Sky Sports commentator and former England captain Michael Atherton interviewed Imran Khan's sons Qasim and Suleiman. Notably, Atherton is one of the 21 former cricket captains who have called for Khan to receive humane treatment and proper medical care, including an independent medical assessment and access to necessary treatment.
Now, during the interview, Qasim Khan alleged that authorities were deliberately keeping his father isolated and said that the family feared for his life.
The Pakistan Cricket Board objected to the interview being aired during the test coverage and formally complained to Sky Sports. Reports say the PCB had warned that Pakistan's players could refuse to return to the field after lunch if the interview was broadcast.
Now, Sky initially held back the segment before eventually airing it during the lunch break. The England and Wales Cricket Board was then drawn into the dispute, with discussions taking place with the Pakistan touring party. Pakistan ultimately returned to the field and the match continued as scheduled.
The controversy comes amid renewed concerns over Imran Khan's health and his treatment in custody. The 73-year-old former Prime Minister has been imprisoned since 2023. Khan's family and political supporters have repeatedly alleged that he is being denied adequate medical care and is being kept in isolation.
Raksha Bandhan is one of the most cherished festivals for Indians and the diaspora.
It is all about the bond between siblings and cousins, and cinema has captured this bond in many different ways. Sometimes through a story, sometimes through a memorable scene, and often through a song that stays with us long after the film is over. Here are films that celebrate the spirit of Raksha Bandhan. Released in 1962, the first movie we're going to talk about is Rakhi, which stars Ashok Kumar and Wahida Rahman as orphaned siblings, Raju and Radha. They grow up looking after each other, but a rift eventually separates them. It is the spirit of Raksha Bandhan that brings them back together, reminding them of a bond that stands through every test.
Then in the movie Krodh, Sunil Shetty plays Karan, an overprotective brother raising his 5 younger sisters. He wants nothing but a secure and happy life for them. But when one of his sisters marries against his wishes and her marriage falls apart, Karan is left heartbroken. Then there's a song called Mamta Pare, beautifully, that captures the sisters tying Rakhi on their brother's wrist.
Anand L. Rai's Raksha Bandhan, starring Akshay Kumar, takes the sibling bond into a more contemporary setting. The film follows a brother trying to get his 4 sisters married while dealing with social pressures like dowry. At its heart, it is about a brother and sister who remain deeply dependent on and protective of each other.
Then there's a movie called Dil Dharakne Do. Priyanka Chopra and Ravi Singh play siblings Aisha and Kabir. They may constantly argue, but when it matters, they have each other's back. The film presents a more modern and relatable sibling equation where a brother and sister become each other's confidants and strongest support system.
And then there is Hum Saath Saath Hain, where the idea of family is at the heart of the story. The film celebrates siblings standing together through misunderstandings, conflict and changing circumstances. It is a reminder that while families may fight, the bond that holds them together often runs much deeper. From emotional dramas to family entertainers, Bollywood has indeed given us countless reminders of what Raksha Bandhan is really about. Because beyond the Rakhi, the gifts and the celebrations, it is the promise of having someone who will always stand by you. And perhaps that is what makes the sibling bond so special.
Now time for a breakdown. That's on World DNA. We'll be back with more news and updates on the other side. Let's take a look at some of the images that have caught the world's attention. Stay with us. You're watching WION World is One.
what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Cola Spa at home.
The architecture of war is changing. Geography is no longer a shield. The battlefield now stretches from sea to space. Meet the veterans, industry stalwarts, and innovators.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Cola Spa at home.
The world is changing. The headlines are shifting. The future is being written every day. From around the continents, Asia and India, WION brings you the stories that shape our world. Grounded, geopolitical, global. WION. World is one.
No matter what your day throws at you, stay in the spa state of mind with the Cola Spa at home.
Hello and welcome back to WION World is One. I'm Kanushka Sarkar and this is Speed News.
Let's get started with all the stories that are making headlines at this hour.